Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Point of order, your lordship. May I have the floor?
You may have the floor. I yield.
Maybe you should paint something?
That's a good idea. However, I don't want gritty paint because it's very warm in here. Terrible excuse because I have slow drying thinners and all that stuff. But it's a bit warm. It's just a bit uncomfy to be in here.
So, whinging aside,
I never.
I paint at 90 or 100 or whatever degrees. We are a modern man. You're a Renaissance man. You have technology. You have a brand new compressor. Dare I say, you break it out and paint something. Oh, man. It's like tiptoeing through a mine. Oh, my God.
Hello and welcome to episode 120 of the Plastic Posse podcast, brought to you by Microworld Games, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive. Also a shout out to our amazing Patreon supporters. Before I want to check in with everyone and see what's going on the bench, I would first like to give a little shout out to John Calasante of Matters of Scale. TJ's not with us this week, so he's asked us to do the little shout out for him. He very graciously received a very nice package from John in the post, which contained really amazingly detailed 3D printed parts for the P40, as well as a bunch of extras that he didn't request. So he just wanted to give a little shout out there. But everyone, please go and check out Matters of Scale, like amazingly detailed, high quality prints. And also on the website, he does have some free files that you can print at home. For example, tires for the new Meng Kuba wagon. John's a great guy. Check out his website. With me today, we have Scott, we have Grant, and we have JB. So let's go around the room and see what everyone's been working on this week. JB, we'll start with you.
Right. Well, I missed last episode, so it's a couple week catch up. All eyes are on a few projects. The T-58 is nearing completion. It's actually been a lot of fun. I know some people struggle with the tack on tracks, myself included, and Doc certainly wouldn't mind me saying he does as well. But outside of that, I mean, the kit's been a lot of fun. The paint scheme has been an absolute blast. I did the master scheme, What If, doing a really light weathering on it. And it's actually looking pretty dang close. Probably a solid 1 or 2 nights at the bench can finish the vehicle off. I have the base roughed out, which needs to be finished, and then the figures are base coated. So it's nearing the finish line. Definitely got to give a shout out again to David Hobbs. He was kind enough to give myself and Doc Anderson, Scale Model Doc on Instagram, give him a follow, a kind of a pre-release kit, I guess you could say. And it's just been cool to have that such a unique subject. It's a hog. I mean, look at the snout on it, and such an interesting vehicle. Oscillating turrets, I have a soft spot for. So that's the big project that's nearing completion. Pleased to report that we're going to talk a little bit later about the M1008 from AK. I have that nearly to primer, and we can talk about that more around what mods were done to it and giving some shout outs to people that helped me along the way. But more importantly is the project, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, but it's the 251 with the Calliope launcher. I'm actually really excited. This week I completed all the aftermarket purchases for it. I got 3D printed suspension, I got a 3D printed engine, I have all the stuff for the fighting compartment, and then what was really great is I picked up Panzer 6 that has about a 12-page spread on the vehicle itself. So that T-34 Calliope launcher was modded onto at least 5 SDKFs at 251s, and Panzer 6 gives a fantastic overview of what unit had them, how they intended to use them when they crossed the Rhine, and just kind of really gives a great pictorial, honestly, instruction on how to build the damn thing, because it's kind of a black box. You know, it's the launcher set into the fighting compartment of 251, so the exterior photos really don't show anything. But this issue of Panzer X really goes in. They have at least 6 of inside the fighting compartment when they were building the thing, so you can see the I-beams, the reinforcing structure that they built within the fighting compartment with a leftover Pac 40 75 millimeter, and then they also have the fire control system up in the passenger seat. So bottom line is, I'm really excited. We are not that far away, and it'll be here before we know it. But all eyes are on that project soon. So that's what's going on my bench. Oh, and I remodeled too, which we'll get into that topic as well later.
Very nice. Been a busy bee. Yeah, that the tank you're currently working on, I never remember the name of it. You did just mention it. It is a pig. It's a tank that only a mother could love. But you're doing a really nice job with it. I really like the camo scheme you've done on it. It's very striking. It stands out on a table. Looking forward to seeing it finished.
Good. Don't start calling me mommy.
No, that's for the messenger chat. Scott, what about yourself? What have you been working on?
Nothing to do with that, thank goodness. Just mostly SMC project. I've been literally getting to the bench every single day, which is great. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then kind of just wrapping up the final details of Rocky Mountain Expo 2025 and, wrapping up the finances and putting together a laundry list of ways that we could and should do better for next year. So that's the two things that I've been working on. Ordered a few parts for my SMC build. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but just trying to, John and I were actually talking about this last night, just trying to make sure that every day I'm working on the project and set a timeline for it and everything. So that's really what I've been doing.
No, yeah, that's fair. Like I said, with the show that you've recently had, there's so much involved with that. So a lot of people think, oh, the show's over, it's done. For the organizers and yourself, it's not done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. But, from all the reviews, everyone had a great time, so all the work really pays off. You can only go bigger and better with each year.
And Jake just posted a blog on Rocky Mountain. I haven't had a chance to read it, but it's nice to see that some people have taken a liking and given their thoughts and shared their feedback. So I look forward to reading that.
Yeah, it's really good. I actually just read it this morning as I was preparing for the recording. And he has some great suggestions. Some of them will definitely onboard. And just invite anybody, if you come to the show, you have some thoughts, reach out. We've got a Facebook page or just send them to me. But yeah, we want this show to live and breathe and evolve. And we're not going to be one of those shows where we do things the same every year. And every year it's going to hopefully get bigger and better and people will enjoy it better. That's the goal.
Wonderful. I'm very much looking forward to making my way out west for that show. Mr. Maybury, how about yourself?
Well, good morning to everybody first. I have been working on the 1008, the truck. I've got mine ready for primer. I was going to I don't know what I'm going to do with mine now. There's so many great ideas out there. Everybody's throwing stuff around. Someone mentioned about the ones that were used in Africa and Somalia that had the roof cut off of them and DSHKs put in the back, which I think would be a kind of a cool idea. But I don't know. We'll see. But it's in primer. It's a great kit. Love it. I'm having such a fun time with it. It's been fun with that kit. I've been watching what happened at WME last week, which was a fantastic show from the show aspect of it, I guess, the beautiful models. Big shout out to Eric Swenson for winning Best Sci-Fi Figure. Fantastic figure, dual figure combination of a mermaid and a sailor. So many beautiful models, so many great things. Had some friends of the show there. Rick Lawler was there, of course, with AK. Gary Baker, Penny was there. Barry and Joan, a whole bunch of other people there, and everything all the pictures they sent. We really do appreciate it, and thank you so much for keeping us in the loop of what's going on and how the show went. Other than that, I've been working on my SMC, but we'll talk about that later. And my truck, I guess I should have waited to talk about that, but that's basically what I've been working on.
Oh, lovely stuff. For myself, I have done very little this week. We are in the midst of a heat wave in the UK, which yeah, there we go. There's the last straight away. Because I was just about to say, which is for to translate, it's been like 91, 92, which for you lot, like, I'm waiting for the over here. When I step outside, I set on fire. It's like, okay, I know America gets hotter, but over here it feels disgusting. The Brits will support what I mean. I just get laughed at by the Americans. But it's been really hot, even with the fan on in the background. It's just blowing warmer around the office. It's not very nice. So to be in the office, like in here, it's not been great. So I've been in the garden most of the time. New compressor arrived. That's good because my last one exploded loudly and scared me. So new Sparmax 610H, something like that. But that's arrived, got that all fitted, set up. It's now in the cupboard. Problem is I got a new hose with a quick connect, and the quick connects I've got currently attached to my airbrushes don't fit that great. They're a bit weird to click in. So I'm just like, okay, I might have to replace all of them because it's a harder on Steam Deck quick release, but the, as they call them, the quick release nipples are not H&S. So, I mean, they're a couple of quid each, so just get 4 of them for the airbrush they use, like I paint. But now I have my compressor, I have no excuse to not be, again, talk about it later, work on the truck, because that was the only thing holding me back. It's all ready for paint and it's in sub-assemblies. So that's nice. The compressor arrived. The room is still a room, still functional, still tidy. It was renovated, but again, we'll talk about that later. But apart from that, yeah, it's truck and SMC projects, which we have our own dedicated segment for. So that's pretty much it for me this week.
Point of order, your lordship. May I have the floor?
You may have the floor. I yield.
Maybe you should paint something?
That's a good idea. However, I don't want gritty paint because it's very warm in here. Terrible excuse because I have slow drying thinners and all that stuff. But it's a bit warm. It's just a bit uncomfy to be in here. And I know you are like, warm? That's freezing.
So, whinging aside,
I never.
I paint at 90 or 100 or whatever degrees all the time. I mean, we are a modern man. You're a Renaissance man. You have technology. You have a brand new compressor. Dare I say, you break it out and paint something.
The compressor itself is broken out. It's set up and ready. It is in the cupboard. It has yet to have been used in anger. It will be. I look at my bench daily and I'm just like, I really should paint that. And then a few hours have passed and it's like, I've still not painted it. And I'm stressing myself out now more knowing it's like, oh, SMC is like 90, 93, 92 something days away. And then a few days will pass. I'm like, oh, it's like 80 odd days away. I'm stressing myself out more. Whereas if I just got on with it, I did this last year. Pretty sure I did it the year before. I love to stress myself out. I wait until we talk about the SMC projects because I thought the barn build for last year was stressful and the guys saw how little sleep and how much chaos that was. This is worse. So that's going to be fun, but we'll talk about that later.
The barn build is safe though. It is.
And
it has a place of honor. I know our listeners
well-loved.
can't see it, but it is in the new bookshelves at the shop. So.
And looks better than when I finished it.
There was some repairs to be made, but
I've no doubt.
But it was a hit at the show. People were excited to see it.
Yeah, I've heard. I know Jake really liked the rusty roof of the barn, and he wants to talk to me about how I did it. I wish I could remember. I had very little sleep, and it was my first ever time doing it. It's actually very simple. I'm surprised. It was one of those techniques, you try it first time, it turned out really well. I was like, I am amazed that worked. If I was to actually deliberately do it again the next time, probably wouldn't work. But, I'm glad it was a hit.
It was very well received. And it's never going apart again. It's 5-minute epoxied. It's
Good.
never being disassembled. That's dirty.
As it should be. That's a problem with my current new SMC build. I'm like, this is going to have to come apart again. Maybe. Hopefully not. We'll see. Depends how many projects I'm bringing.
I think you should keep it simple. And for some reason, you and a Hetzer make sense. You need
now you're talking.
You need to pick up a Tamiya or Tacom Hetzer and blow it out of the water and do it. I love it because I'm biased, but I love the scalloped ambush scheme. And you do that with Arto figures on it because I had that. That's one of my projects I want to do. But like that screams you. Put a nice little muddy field base. I'm just saying, keep it simple.
I mean, yeah, and it literally in the display case is a factory fresh painted Dunkelgelb Tacom Hetzer, ready for camo and
Let's
finishing.
go do this.
I know, it's one of those projects I should have just finished and got on with it, but I stalled not knowing what scheme to do. It retired to the cupboard, and it never came out of the cupboard.
And if you do a Hetzer, if you don't want to freehand the camouflage, they sell mass sets for all of the schemes.
Yeah.
Well,
you can have that sorted in 5 minutes on eBay.
Yep.
Luckily, JB sent me the what is it? What are those silhouette files? Yes,
Yeah.
the disc.
Scalloping, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've got that ready to go into the silhouette cutter and just
There you
go
go.
like that. Yeah. Problem is, I'm lazy. It's not lazy. It's ADHD. All the ideas are in my head, but actually getting them to physically be a thing is another trouble.
So here's how you do this. You take one step today, and then you put JB's file in your computer and you print it. That's all. That's all you got to do. And then tomorrow, you break out one color. Just do one step at a time, man. You got this. You got it.
Well, it looks like a Hetzer's going to be making its way to SMC this year. It's going to have to now.
There you go.
Are the
Paint
hatches
game.
open?
No, it's buttoned up completely.
Okay.
Which, I mean, would be too big of a job to rip two of them open.
Nah, you could make it. There's some good pictures. I'll send you a bunch. There's some good pictures of them on streets in Belgium, in Luxembourg, where they were used around Wilts where we were. So you could do one, to be honest, you could do it buttoned up. Maybe you could, do a little battle damage on it and then have a U.S. Alpine figure next to it. Because they were used, around Wilts. There was a couple there. There's some really good photos I can send you. And it's both the scalloping scheme and then also the hard edge squiggly ones. I think that's a Skoda scheme, if I'm not mistaken. So there's plenty of options. And I have that Jagdpanzer 38T book. I can send some. I'm just saying this out loud where I would hate to see you working in my room again the Friday before the show. And
poisoning you with chemicals.
Yeah, I mean, I went to bed next to your enamel, off-gassing. I'm waking up and it's not the beer. Actually, I didn't even was hungover, so I think the beer was counteracted by the enamel off-gassing.
Yeah.
My body just went into like Superman mode.
JB's got a contact high.
Yeah, my white blood cell count compensated for all this.
Do you have anything specific you need? If JB doesn't have it, I have a Hetzer library that's pretty impressive too. I love the 38T variants. So
there's a lot of them that were in the Ardennes also that were locked up and they have figures all over the top of them and stuff like that. So there's 1,000 ideas.
I was just going to say, and I don't know if you have this book, but the modeling World War II light tanks from AK.
I don't.
Oh man, they have a great. This is the one I want to do. The scallop one.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's from Aaron's long lost, pen pal essentially. But no, dude, if you have it already in Dunkelgelb, you're 80% there. Yeah, if not more.
Well, you make a good point for a few reasons. There is nothing that could not ruin a trip, but add a lot of stress to a trip knowing you have work to do still.
Yeah.
Like that was a stress. So every night I was like, okay, maybe if I get some work done at this Airbnb tonight, then I can do some at the hotel the night before. It's like, how about you just enjoy the trip and not have to worry about finishing a project? Get it done before the trip. But also, as well as, like, you made a good point, like, Hetzer, perfect. Like, part of me's like, do I not abandon the big project, which I haven't mentioned yet, but just try and get a handful of smaller projects done? More simple bases, not big, complex, overly indulgent, hey, look at me, I'm skilled because I'm not built. Like, the barn was a bit showy-offy. Like, just present the model simply.
Yeah, I feel the same way. When you wrote that, hey, August is when we have to basically say what we're going to bring when we register, I kind of had that, excuse my language, Scott, moment.
Yeah.
And I had these ideas of grandeur in my head where I was going to bring all this great stuff. And now I'm like 2 things, maybe 3 at the most. And then that third thing's a figure. It's like, well, I'm looking at timeline and I'm looking what I've got. I had all these ideas and I've got these kids sitting over here with all these extras on them right now. And I'm like, I don't have time to do that. If I do them, it's going to look like hell. It's not going to be, I wouldn't want to put them on the table. So do I just back off? I don't mean to jump into what we were going to talk about, but do I back off and just focus?
Well, and Jensen knows better than anybody else. Yeah. You got to lug this shit all over Europe too. Yep. So I mean, if you bring 18 things or you bring these bigger, larger things, you're going to have to deal with the logistics of everything we have planned around the trip. Mm-hmm. So that's something to keep in mind too.
Yeah. I mean, JB and Jensen know about that because both of you guys didn't you guys have to use like magnets on things just to get them in boxes and get them traveling and stuff like that last year?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I take a pretty simple approach. Yeah. So it's interesting. Traveling for me has been pretty straightforward. My box easily fits under a 737 aircraft all the way up. It essentially fits on an airplane. And then what I do is since everything now I'm putting on bases, I put foam blocks in between them all, so they're not going to move. And then the inside of my box I covered with felt. So there's a lot of friction there. I would love to get to a point, and I've thought about building another box where I put a pegboard in the bottom, and then the pegboard, instead of putting like, peg hooks, I use that for anchors. So on the bottom of my bases, I put a nut, and then I can screw it in from the bottom of that, because then
That's a good idea.
if for some unforeseen reason it tips over, I'm not too worried. Now, knock on wood, my box has never been tipped over. It's always wide. I make sure that it goes in the bin by itself. If you put a jacket with it, they'll put the jacket underneath the box, which tips it up. So like if you I've been very lucky so far. So, and then lugging it around Europe. Yeah, that's a thing. I think the toughest time was around the tube for London. And it was only because I remember after Telford, we went to Bovington, and then the train, and then the tube in London. And then I remember leaving our hotel early in the morning, and I was getting poured on. And I remember just looking at my box and it was soaked with water. But nothing got damaged inside, and it was all fine. So I think as long as you bring a reasonably sized box. Now, I will say TJ and Jackson, they opt for a lot bigger one, and they put theirs in the overhead, which terrifies me. And they secure their pieces either with some like a blue tack kind of thing. But for me, I like putting it on the seat. I'm not going to bring that much. Like, I'm going to bring one or two 35th scale vehicles, and then I've committed to bringing a couple figures as well. So I'll bring my wedge that I've already built. I have plans for another one, spoiler alert, and then I have like a little Warhammer figure I want to bring, but it will fit in my little box. So I plan on doing that. And I'll also give a shout out to Jeff. He actually bolts his diorama to the bottom of his box. So if it does get tipped or anything, nothing will happen. So that's another, and I'm pretty sure his box fits under the seat too. So multiple ways, but regardless, mine, I block it in with foam pads. So they're not going to move. And then with the friction on the felt, it's not moving either. So
right.
Answer, but yeah.
Yeah. I have a Table War smaller box than, I have both boxes, the bigger one and the smaller one. I use the smaller one because, like you said, it fits right underneath the seat in front of me. No problems. And I don't use blue tack. I use earthquake gel. It's basically the same thing. And I've put the foam in between my stuff. And I think I've never had a problem with it. I mean, I've never had a problem with it flipping. Now that I say that, I hope I don't jinx myself. I've never had a problem with it at TSA. Either they'll do a self-inspection, or they'll just put it through in its own little thing, and it won't flip over because of basically the weight of it. So that's helped me a lot. But yeah, it's traveling is going to be something to think about, especially for coming over from the continent. So, or going to the continent. It's going to be interesting to see what people do and how they do that. I mean, there's been some really cool videos about guys. I can't remember who did it, but he had a couple aircraft that he showed them. He used foam and used toothpicks, and I don't know how he did it, but he secured the hell out of that thing. And he took it, shook it, and then flipped it and threw it across the room, and it was fine. So, it's crazy. The SMC is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Transporting models. I've got like it's a plastic hard shell, like it's an equipment case.
Pelican case, yeah.
Pelican case, yeah.
Yeah, you like stuff you usually put like cameras and equipment in, but mine's just for models. It does the job because TJ threw mine out of the car the other year and everything survived. Does its job. I was looking the other way and he was getting out the car with it on his knee, and I just heard this crashing noise, and I don't know, oh shit! And I was just like, I know what that was. I didn't want to look, but I use one of them. It is absolutely. This will be a good reference for anyone in the UK. Is the exact dimensions EasyJet allow for carry-on hand luggage. Exact dimensions. So if they try and argue, it's like, no, it fits. There's that. It's a pain. I'm not going to lie. I don't really like carrying it around. Unlike, say, JB's box, which the handle's on top, so everything stays upright. Mine doesn't. Mine's like a suitcase. The handle is on the side, so obviously when you pick it up, everything turns sideways. But like with how I pack mine, the amount of foam I crush into that case, nothing's moving. Like it's packed tight, which is how I want it. Hence why when it fell out the car, just gonna blame him again, when TJ threw it out the car with his full force in a fit of rage, everything was perfectly fine and undamaged. And the shell is really hard plastic. Like you could kick it down a bloody cliff and it just wouldn't be a problem. It's just if you're willing to travel with it, like going through airports and stuff. Again, goes in one of those trays through a scanner, no problem at all. 90% of the time, it's just an equipment case. They can scan it and see there's no in it, so they're not going to ask you to open it. It's just if you can be bothered, because it's an effort. You're carrying it around, banging it on stuff. It's just something else to travel with. It can be quite heavy, because even when those cases are empty, they are heavy duty, so they're heavy. But it's good because it is carry-on hand luggage size. You can get quite a lot in it. Definitely not going under the seat in front of you, though. So just be aware, like, it has to go above you. So it will tip. I know Airbus overhead bins, they don't tip, but Boeing ones do. Or I think it's a narrow body design where, just by the nature of narrow bodies, the storage bin does tip, whereas on wide bodies, I don't think they do. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, like, it's down to the effort. Traveling with models is a little bit of a pain. But I thought that was like taking them to America or across Europe. It's like, oh, is it really worth the effort? But then when you get that night, everyone takes them out of the box, puts them on the table, then everyone's stood around talking about the models and just talking, sharing experiences. Like, I am so glad I brought these models. Like, I would have felt really missing out if I had nothing on the table to talk about. Just that alone makes it worth the effort. So yeah, project wise, I mean, yeah, traveling with models, that's why you have to be really cautious with the projects you bring. Jeff, last year, he made a custom carry case for his diorama, which just proves his skill. The box he brought, which was custom made for the base, was just incredible. But like projects like mine, the barn one, it was built with the intention of coming apart because I knew I had to travel with it. I don't really want to ever do that again. So I'm just going to work on smaller projects because it's just logistics wise, it can be a big headache. I mean, I was about to say, I don't know what you guys think. I do know what you guys think. You've all traveled with models. It can be great or it can be a bloody nightmare. The first time I ever did it, the Irish Dublin airport security dropped my model box. So my first experience was a great one.
Yeah, I think another thing that kind of affected you too is that you not only did you have to bring your thing, but you were still working on it, like you said, in John's room and all. So you had to bring all those supplies, all that stuff you were working with, all that stuff. So that just made it even worse, in my opinion. I mean, that's why JB's comment of, why don't you just finish up a head surge, you'll be done and you won't have to worry about that. You can enjoy the trip. So I know it's just other things you have to think about.
That gets back to kind of what JB and I were talking about, Jensen, and what I mentioned to you earlier. I know it's getting closer, but we're in July 12th as of this recording. You just get on a schedule and you say, okay, I need to have construction sorted by the end of July. You're well ahead of that power curve because it sounds like it's completed already. Mm-hmm. That gives you August and September for painting and weathering and basing it. And as long as it might be 1 hour a day on some days or 3 or 4 hours a day on some days. If you just, have that consistent every single day, you're going to be successful and have it ready to go. And then you can just, like you said, you can go enjoy the museums and you can enjoy the tours and you can enjoy the company and not have to worry about it so much.
Yeah. And I mean, JB will be able to absolutely attest to this. Like, I think there was moments where it was obvious as I was at museums or at lunch or enjoying the day, my mind was very much distracted. Like, I need to get this done tonight, or if I can at least get this done. It's just like, forget about all that. Be in the moment. Enjoy the present. Don't be stressing about getting projects done on the trip. Just get them done before the trip. Very easy to tell myself that. If I will or not is a completely separate question.
Reward yourself with a round of darts after you've been at the bench and you've used that new compressor.
I shall. I've been hitting more 180s recently. But by the way, the darts are coming with me on this trip. Somewhere we'll have a dartboard.
You'll be like in the bank vault, with the billiards, man. You're going to pool shark it up with the darts.
I am. Well, considering Mikkel said he would beat me at darts next time we find a dartboard. It's like, well, can't be having that now, can we?
So since we're talking SMC, John, I know you kind of gave an overview, but how are your projects coming? The ones you want to at least talk about right now?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hinted at it earlier. My big SMC project is the 251 with the T-34 Calliope launcher on it. It's a super unique vehicle, and what's interesting is I remember the first year I wanted to go to SMC back in 2022. I sent Lester Plaskett a message, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking of these couple projects," and he's like, "Oh, do the do the Calliope and the 251 because it's so unique. And that was 2 years ago. And I've kind of forgotten about it, but I've had a lot of the stuff for it. And I finally said to myself, like, this is a unique subject because when I go to shows like that, I love building Tigers. I love building other vehicles. But I do want to bring a unique piece. That's why the 1340 went last year because it's different. I want something that ideally no one else has on the table. And I think the 251 with the Calliope answers that question. What the issue is, and not necessarily an issue, it's just going to test my scratch building abilities where since the launcher is in the fighting compartment, the vehicle, the kit is great. It's a Dragon kit. It's awesome. If you build it out of the box or even detail it up, it's great. The problem or the complications come in line for me is when I start cutting the superstructure because I want that scale thickness of the armor plate. And right now, because the Dragon 251 not only has the plate on the outside, but also 251's had an inner plate as well. Well, in the photographs that I have in Panzer X6, it shows that inner plate is removed, the red primer is exposed, but you can't do that easily with the Dragon kit. So what I'm going to do is probably slice off the back 4/5 of the fighting compartment and then do styrene sheet on the top plates at least, and then likely on the side as well. And that's just going to take some time. And then I have a 75 Pack 40 for the stabilization system for the rocket launcher. But I'm looking forward to getting into it. I mean, I've started already. I've cleaned up the wheels, assembled the tracks. I have def wheels for the front. I cleaned up some of the interior. And what's nice is they gutted the thing. That said, when you gut it, you have to do some superstructure or supporting structure inside. Unfortunately, Dragon gives you like the fuel tank and I think the transmission and a few other things. So it's going to be basic scratch work in there. But overall, it's such a unique project. Like I said, they did 5 of them at least. Panzer X book is pretty good about detailing what the tactical numbers were. Some of them weren't known, but like a majority of them were. One was converted from a pack wagon, and then some of them had hit marks. But basically, I have a choice, and I found one where the one that is launching in the field that actually doesn't have tracks on the left side and it has hit marks on the front. I don't want to do that one. I want to do one with both track sets, and I want to make it like it's being built in the shop, almost done. So I'll have the engine hatch open and I think I'm going to have an acetylene torch and a welding kit next to it. So it'll probably be built as if it was sitting in a courtyard or something, not in a field. So I'll have kind of maybe a cobblestone street. I have a couple base plates for that. But bottom line, it's a super unique project. I'm really excited to get started. Actually, I had show up this week. Shout out to Rob Riv. His photo etch video on YouTube is really good on welding or soldering photo etch. So I give him a lot of credit for making that. And I would encourage our listeners, if you're curious about photo etch soldering, definitely go check out his videos on the Modeling Insanity TV channel on YouTube. He's got a couple. One of them is really good with the hinges. That's the one I learned the most from. It's his most recent one. And I bought everything that he has on there. So I have a Weller soldering iron. I have the flux, which I understand is the important thing. And then I have some solder, but I also have some solder paste that Scott talked about as well. So I have a couple different options. And there's going to be a lot of soldering on this. I'll be soldering up the tubes that are all brass for the Calliope launcher. The storage units on the side of the vehicle are brass. And then the front fenders obviously are too. So there's a lot of brass on this. I'm super excited to get started. Yeah, I think this weekend I'm actually heading up to Breckenridge, so I'll be out of pocket. I know Jensen's like, take me with you. We have a nice little condo we rented up there. Some friends are in town, but next weekend my wife's out of town and I have 3 days of undisturbed. And what I'm hoping is to make remarkable progress on the 251 from a construction standpoint. So I've been droning on a lot, but that's really my starry, my North Star for S&C. That's the project that I'm going to get after. And then also with all this, I'm going to send Bases by Bill, Christian over there, an email and order some wood bases for the 251, the M1008, and some nameplates for some figures and the kit itself, because they do great work. They made some custom bases for me last year, and I'll probably do the same where I can pop the top off and then pop it back on when I'm in country, so I can put the wood block in my check bag and not worry about carrying it on and having it being heavy.
That's actually a great transition. We talked about in a separate chat the last week or two about the subject of brag books, and with all the work that you're going to be putting into this vehicle and the limited amount of space that they have on the table at SMC, like any ideas like incorporating photos to your base or a way that you can kind of show the incredible amount of scratch building and super detailing that's going to be required for a project like that?
Yeah, I'll probably do what TJ and Jeff did last year, where they had a QR code on a business card. I think that's the best way to do it at SMC. SMC, for those, we talk about it a lot, and listeners, I guess I'm not sorry about it because it's just such a good show and it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait for Grant and Scott to experience it. But it's a unique venue where brag books aren't necessarily a thing. I've seen one or two of them there. I think again, I think of it almost as like an art museum. And at an art museum, you can have a placard, and on that placard, put a little QR code. And TJ could attest, he's not here, but the judges did look at that QR code, and I think people scanned it throughout the day as well. So my intent is to build like a Google site around the building of the vehicle and painting, and obviously the research as well. But the notion is if you click on that, you can see the amount of work will be done. And that's my goal for that project specifically, is to have a little bit, a blog. I haven't updated a JB Closet Modeler blog post in forever, but I have that avenue there to at least put it out there and have a internet resource. So that's what I'll do, because again, SMC is unique in a sense where brag books, I wouldn't say they're frowned upon. It's just, like you said, Scott, there's not a lot of space on the table. You want to make it clean because it's that type of show, and professional and crisp. And one of the ways to do that is with that little QR code.
Yeah, it's a great idea because I think you want to have available if somebody's interested in, wow, what does it take to make a model like that? Because, you're talking about removing sections of the vehicle, doing a lot of photo etch, a lot of scratch building. So it'd be a shame to kind of let that go. Look forward to seeing what that looks like. But anyway, well, Grant, how's your pod that you're building for SMC, and what else are you going to be bringing over?
The pod's good. I like the QR code. I didn't think about that. I did see the talk about it. I'd have to figure out how to do that, but I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to bring a brag book. I have a small one I've been working on for something else also. That's a good idea. I think I'll just make a Google site and just do that so they can QR code it and then just put that on the base itself, and that's a great idea. Everything's going good. I got the engines painted up, detailed up a little bit more this week. I have been using a lot of oil paints on the engine compartment itself. A lot of brass, a lot of silver, doing some highlighting with some transparents, blues and yellows to bring some life to it. Going to attack the weathering. It's not going to be much weathering on it because of their one-shot vehicles. So they came from the factory and they were just thrown into space and they were done because they crashed into a planet. Won't be much weathering on it, just a lot of filters, I guess. It's going to be the best thing to do with that. But it'll be done. I'm working on the base right now. I'm trying to get it to be what I'm looking for, what I think they're looking for, looking at a lot of pictures that JB and Jensen and TJ and all the guys have sent back from the past shows, looking at what those bases look like and trying to get a pattern so I know what size it needs to be. And I don't want to have too much empty space and stuff like that. So I've been really kind of focusing on that. I had, like I talked about earlier, I had these like ideas of, I was going to do this, and this, and this, and this. And I was like, and now I'm like, no, I'm going to have my pod. I know that I might, and I think it's just going to be a couple fantasy figures that I'm working on that I've done and a couple historical figures. And that's it, to tell you the truth. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. I want to enjoy my time in France with my family before the show. I don't want to have to be worried about. I don't want to try and take along a lot of prep items. I will take along a little case just in case something happens to something, touch-up kit, I guess you would call it. But I don't want to have to do all that. I want to enjoy my time while there. And then in Amsterdam and then in Eindhoven, I want to spend as much time with you guys as possible. We've been to a lot of shows lately, but it seems like there's so many people going around and we're doing so many different things that we don't get to see each other much. So it's going to be fun to be all together again as one big happy group. I want to focus on that this year for me. That's my big goal. But other than that, I think bases by Bill, Chris, and all those guys, so they're fantastic. They've helped me a lot. I didn't know they do nameplates. I knew now JB said something. They do nameplates. I might be bothering them for those. Other than that, I think it's the process of getting ready for this show has been a blast. Looking at what you guys are doing and trying to do something different, like JB talked about, I think is I think my pod is going to be enough different that there won't be another one on the table. So hopefully that'll help me in that section. So, it's just, I'm just really ready. Really, 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 really ready. I keep on looking at TJ will post stuff like 90 days and 93 days. And I posted something this week and like Jensen said, we're in August. We pre-register and you got to get ready for that and, everything else. So it's going to be fun. It's really going to be fun.
It's going to be an absolute blast. I can't wait. The whole trip, obviously, but yeah, I can't wait JB brought me back the book that you get when you go to SMC and, getting to see it from that perspective and all the photos online. And, just like anything else in this hobby, it's one thing to look at pictures of it. It's another thing to actually be there and get the 3-dimensional, piece of it and get the in-person experience and meeting people. And, we have people that are going to be, coming from Australia that are going there that we're going to be able to meet there, and all over the world as well. So yeah, it's going to be great. Well, Jensen, I know we kind of exerted some peer pressure on you, but what's your kind of preliminary plan and on what you're thinking and how many are you thinking of taking?
So initially I had the big project planned, which always sounds daunting and fun. There's a Firefly build we're all doing. There's a little group build a few of us are doing at the minute, which is still very early stages for me. So it's the Asuka Firefly 1C, the composite hull, the most attractive Firefly there is. No argument. So it is that. And I was talking to Jackson one night on VC. We were about to play squad, and then we were talking about the actual project coming up. And he was just like, so what are the plans with the build? Are you just going to build the model as it is? And I was just like, I don't know. I've got some ideas for a scene, yada, yada. Then I looked at the box art of it, and I'll post it in the Facebook page later today. It's the box art where it's a Firefly going through a field. There's a couple of the crew sticking out the hatches, and it's going past a destroyed Panzer IV with a windmill in the background. And, me being me, I was like, that would make a really cool scene. Like a bit of an homage to JB when he did box art, the actual box art for the Korean War Easy 8 with the Jeep and the Easy 8 with the red face on the front of the hull. That looked really cool. Did a really great job. I was like, yeah, I could do a box art style thing, but like with the windmill and the destroyed Panzer IV and the Firefly going through like a field of cabbages. It would look really good, but then in my head I'm like, I'm massively underestimating how big that scene's going to be. With a windmill, 2 tanks, a field, it's big. That's a big project. I was thinking, okay, maybe do a cut down version with just like half a windmill, like the scene is slicing it in half. Half a windmill, got the Firefly, field, no destroyed tank on the road. Try and do that. So in my head, that's still possible. Got to make a lot more progress into the actual Firefly build before I start thinking of how in depth this base is going to be, though. No point planning that far ahead without the actual model being finished. So the Asuka Firefly, with all the bells and whistles, 3D printed this and that and everything. I've got the HD model stuff for the upgrades, metal barrel, Panzer Art, 4 British tank crew for it. One of them's holding a cat or a dog. I didn't even realise that. Really cool little detail. Really nice crew, but I've tested them in all the hatches. Then I've realised, yikes, these quite big hatches, you can see a lot in there with these crews sticking out. I know it's one of those rules that judges get judged for, but there's too much of a void. Like, it's not an interior kit, but if I just stick some figures in there with just black void, that's going to be noticed and that's going to be noted on. So I'm like, oh, well, does that mean now scratch builds into the interior and blah, blah, blah. So, Firefly. That one's, I want to bring that because I love the Firefly and I like painting olive drab, even if it's the British SCC-15. If I'm correct, which I need to get the new colour, because I have the old colour in the little glass jar. Compared to TJ's SCC-15 and mine, massively different. And I think his colour looks better and more accurate than mine. Mine's very deep forest green, and that it just doesn't sit quite right in my eye. Because I did an old Ryefield Firefly.
So it's too cool, maybe? It needs to be warmer.
It's darker and just really rich. Like you would see on a mint leaf. It's like just really strong green. Grab a new bottle of that. I mean, they're not cheap, so I can pick up a new SCC-15. So I want to do that. TJ has massively sidetracked me because he started working on these Edward P40. And I had the Royal classes since they came out, and I was just like, I'll look at it every time I go past it. And he started on his. I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to try and finish my FM1, which we started months ago and we we kind of stalled on that. So I want to finish off my FM1, my Edward FM1 in the Fleet Air Arms scheme with the invasion stripes. It looked really cool. I would love to get that done, get another aircraft into the aircraft category, and maybe try and do better than highly commended that I got last year. Because I know my aircraft can be good. I saw the faults on my old ones. I'd like to do that, but having recently just talked, I'd love to now try and get the Tacom Hetzer finished on a nice little base with a figure or something. Something that's been in my head for the past couple of days, because I picked them up at AMPS. The Alpine Miniatures US, there are two, it's a twin set of US soldiers driving in a Willys Jeep. I want to do that on just a very, very tiny little base, a bit like you would do, JB, with one of those wedges. Very small, very simple, because it's a Willys Jeep. It is tiny. But I don't know if those miniatures, those figures are modelled for the Tamiya kit, the Tacom kit, the Meng kit. I don't know which. I know I have the Tacom kit. I have the Meng kit. Do not have the Tamiya kit.
The Tamiya kit.
It's sort of modelled for that one.
They're modeled for the Tamiya kit. I'm pretty damn sure. I mean, I put them in the Tamiya kit and they fit perfectly.
There we go then. I know
that's should be okay though. I think they're all within this. Yeah. Grant's right. They're for Tamiya, but I think you could easily put them in any. They will not fit in a Kuba wagon because I tried that and a Jeep is a lot wider.
Okay.
But I think you should be all right. But I like that idea. That's very much similar to Andy out of the UK. He loves those Jeeps and his work is fantastic.
Yeah. So I want to do one of them. I wouldn't mind doing a similar German version because I have the same crew, not the same crew, but the twin set driving the Schwimmwagen. So it'd be kind of nice to have them two side by side in their own little tiny, very small plinth sort of scene. So basically, yeah, if I can get the Firefly Dio done, the FM1, and maybe those two small plinth sort of scenes, I would be very happy with that. But even if I just got the Firefly scene done and I was happy with it and it was actually finished before the trip, I'd be more than content with that. It's nice to enter more than one thing, but I'd rather have one very, very pleased with builds done than four, they're all right builds done.
Well, and if you're going after it every day, I mean, one of them might take you on a U-turn you didn't anticipate. And so you can just sort of say, okay, I'm going to move that aside. We'll finish that after October, and then give yourself options. But yeah, get that new compressor humming and start cranking away at it, my friend.
I'll certainly try. There was another build I was going to do. I got all, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Omaha or Texas. I got all the T-Rex bells and whistles for the Tamiya Comet. A build I'm very much looking forward to doing, but I just think if I try and squeeze that in, I'm going to rush it. I'm going to just try and make myself do it in a certain amount of time. And I think that sort of build with all the aftermarket and the Tankcraft 3D printed tracks for it, I think
super rare.
Very rare. I think it's one of those, it's like, now that build deserves a respectable amount of time. Don't try and cram it in between 4 other projects within 90 days. It would be disrespectful to the subject.
Yeah, and I think with yours as well, you talked about having this grand scene, which is great, but I would recommend do what Peter Usher does. You build the one vehicle for this year, like your Firefly. You go all out on that with a crew, and it's put on a plank, honestly, just a plank. And then next year, you're building up that scene with another vehicle, with the windmill. And do you have the windmill already?
No, so it was I was either going to get the RT Dio one, which is the full windmill, or, a bit like the barn, scratch build it.
Okay, yeah. Then I think you definitely need to just focus on the vehicle. Here I am lecturing someone how to build. Great. Sorry, listeners. But I think in terms of having a fun and successful show, and success means fun at a show, not winning an award, knowing that the experience is about the show and not building a model in the night before. Yeah, definitely. I think you nail the Firefly. You take that, you enter in an ordnance as a vehicle, and then next year you have the whole entire scene built. And by the way, you can see firsthand the RT diorama windmill at the show. So if you want to see how it looks, and if you're like, oh, why would I scratch build it when this thing looks friggin' awesome? Then you have that option there too to see and
I think. Good point, and it's a good system, because I think just with all that in my head, like, do a whole scratch build, blah, blah, blah. Overwhelming myself before I've even begun is a very quick way of getting nothing done at all. I think those smaller builds, like I say, focus on just producing the best possible vehicle and figures I can, And then, like, say, next year, because next year always comes sometimes, just, yeah, what's the rush? Why does it have to be this year? Just do the best I can with what I already have in front of me.
Yeah, and I think, like, with your barn, it was such a great vision, but you just approached it, and it made it, first of all, I think it made it uncomfortable, unpleasant for you. And you kind of expressed some regrets over it. I wish I would have finished it, got it done, sooner, those kind of things. And it's a marvelous piece, but maybe take some of that experience and say, hey, how can I make it a little better this year? Cause yeah, you're going to put it on the table, but are you going to feel good about it? Are you going to feel like, yes, it's actually done? And then can I just focus on what really these shows are all about, which is, sitting down and having a drink with your friends and people you only see once a year, and, really focusing in on that part of it. So I think capitalizing on that experience last year where you were just up against the wall, little beads of sweat on your forehead, maybe trying to change that around a bit.
It's just prioritizing what is and isn't actually doable rather than stressing myself out like I did last year, because that was a stress. And like the night before SMC, my room was an absolute tip. I was just like, well, this isn't getting tidied until I come back. And I don't want to do that again. I want to be packed in advance and just have a fun, relaxing trip and being like, nothing to do. All I can do now is have a good time, which that's all anyone wants to do when they spend all this money on going abroad, going to these trips, these museums, seeing all your friends. You don't want added stress to that. Like, I mean, I always say JB makes these itineraries, which are just a lifesaver. You just want to enjoy it. You just want to like, okay, so this is what we got planned today. I don't have to think of what do I need to paint tonight.
JB Historical Tours LLC, an international corporation.
If only I could make half as much as I make now, and I'm content.
So we'll put Jensen down for somewhere between 1 and 4.
Yes, but at least 1, or he's walking in the Ardennes between villages.
That's right. Awesome. Well, for me, I'm just going to take one, just the E25. And what I'm trying to do is the trumpeter kit is not a good model kit. So I'm trying to deal with that. The idea and the concept of, so not just the execution of the kit, right? But the design of the kit isn't very good. It's really based on, I think, a World of Tanks model is what they looked at. And so, the whole idea of without getting too far off into the weeds, of the E25 was this E project that the Germans saw was, the Americans had all these standardized platforms where instead of making 60 different pieces of armor, they only made 6 or 7 different pieces. They just made a lot of them. And so in that spirit, they decided, well, let's make a series of 5 or 6 different vehicles that share some components and that slot in and replace a number of different vehicles. And the E25 it sort of looks like a Hetzer, but it was really slotted in to replace Panzer III, Panzer IV, Sturmgeschütz 3, and Sturmgeschütz 4. Actually, not the Hetzer. The Hetzer was going to be replaced by the E10. And again, this is all paper. None of it came true. So my challenge has been, number one, improve the model itself, because it's really not good at all. But and also try to make it realistic, and I've got air quotes around that, but make it look like something that was doable. And so I've been doing a lot of 3D printing. Faustus is my best buddy, putting components on the vehicle. There's a little gun turret on the kit that looks like a laser turret, getting rid of all that and using, German production pieces off of other vehicles to try and make it look like what it was intended to be. And so I've been really diving into that. And then I've given myself till the end of July to get the actual build done. Made a lot of progress in the last week or so. JB and I have been on a lot of Zooms and got all the running gear sorted, replaced the drive sprockets, replaced the tracks, replaced the bump stops on the lower hull with 3D printed ones. And now I'm engineering the top. All 3 sections of the roof need work. They're just not well thought out in the kit. I have 2 of those 3 done and sorted, and I'm just on my last one. And then, it'll be putting it together and getting the build across the finish line so I can get it into primer and paint, and then have all of August and September to paint, camouflage. I know the scheme I'm going to use on it, and then also how do I display it. And I'm sort of torn between just putting it in the field and sort of using it that way. I have some really nice R2 figures, or Arto. I don't know how you say that, but a couple of those, or maybe putting it, since it was a paper Panzer, in maybe more of a production environment, where a vehicle's being tested. Kind of one of those two ideas. And simple base, I'm going to get the same kind of case like Grant has, the smaller of the Table War cases, so that again, I've got to lug that around as we go to the various sites around the UK and on the trains and everything, and visit all the sites in Europe. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just forcing myself every night. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 3 or 4 hours, but getting down to the bench and making sure that I have forward momentum every single day, because I'm not JB. I'm not a fast modeler at all. I'm very deliberate. I tend to overthink things, and I have a really, really high standard. And so, I built 2 or 3 sets of drive sprockets. I bought multiple kits of it, ended up getting some 3D printed ones. So everyone's very much, put it on the vehicle. Am I happy with this? No, this looks bad. I've got to have another solution. And I think I'm probably putting one of Faustus's, nieces or nephews or sons or daughters through college, with all the 3D files I'm buying and printing. So anyway, just trying to keep momentum going. And I think I'll have, being able to focus on one vehicle, I'll be able to have something that I at least feel like should belong on the table. And that's my only expectation, is just bring something that speaks well enough that does honor to the other people that go to the show, and allows me to kind of participate in those conversations and that social fabric of the show. So that's really my goal. But I think so far I'm pretty happy with the way it's going, and just need to stick to my timetable.
Honestly, there's something I want to just I want to say. I think sometimes, me specifically, I definitely on this point. Sometimes I think the way I can portray SMC and the competition, the standard, the people who attend, I know for a fact I'm guilty of making it sound a little bit elite and snobbery. And I want to just reassure everyone, and anyone who's been already knows this, it couldn't be further from that. You will meet the most down-to-earth, most humble, genuine modelers and judges and traders and anyone who attends. It's so relaxed, so welcoming. It's just a celebration of the hobby we love. And it's just because you said, a piece that belongs on the table. I think it's fair to say any model belongs at SMC, because it's such a grand celebration of such an incredible hobby. And you'll never find someone who's just oh, what's that doing on the table? No. It's such a welcoming environment. Everyone is amazing. Everyone is lovely. It's wonderful. So it's far from elitist. Because I know we talk about SMC a lot. It's just because how magnificent it is. It's such a great show. And it's not a show, it's an event, a celebration, like JB says a lot of the time. It's special. So for everyone listening, if we talk about SMC a lot, this is why. It's really good.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys on that. I think let's move over to Grant and talk about models from the Plastic Posse group.
All right, guys. So we are going to take a look at the models that caught our eyes on the Posse group. And I am going to start out with Scott. So what did you find this week?
Yeah, no problem. So I found a user, Mr. Uhu, and he has a channel called Mr. Uhu's Workbench, and he has the coolest little thing. I'm not a Warhammer guy. Some of the stuff is really cool. I have some of the figures. I just don't know a lot about it, but he has a Plague Boost crawler tank. And this thing looks like some kind of World War I tank on steroids, but it's got plague disease on it and spikes. And anyway, it's painted really well. It's super cool. I really like it. It kind of reminds me, I used to give TJ a little bit of a hard time with a piece that he has that I called his alien vacuum cleaner or something like that, and this is kind of in that same spirit. So it's like a tank that's got this disease on it. It's really, really cool, and it's painted wonderfully. So anyway, Mr. Uhu's Workbench with the Warhammer Plague Boost crawler tank. Check. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check it out on the Posse. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, nothing like the little Nurgle tank to make your day feel better.
Yeah, there you go. It's a Nurgle tank. There you go.
I don't know if it's Nurgle, but whatever. It's a great build. I really like it. JB, what about you?
Yeah, I got to go with our friend Dustin Diaz. His M1008 truck door is looking fantastic. He's given a little bit of a spoiler on what his subject matter is. He's going for a fire truck, so a civilian example, but it definitely looks beat up. Knowing Dustin, it'll be in some sort of junkyard array with crap all over it, and he's just nailing it. It looks just really good. I mean, the outside, the Warren Red is awesome, but what I love is he's tricked out the inside of the door, so he has the supporting structure, some wires for the cabling, I assume, for the locking mechanism, and some of the internal support structure that's completely rusted out. He also shared some pictures of the bench as well a few days ago, unpainted, where he textured it, and I actually used that as an example for mine to kind of go in and hog out some of that material to make it look like it's been beat up. But all credit goes to Dustin. It's looking awesome, and knowing him, I'm sure we'll see a finished piece within a week or so. And with that, that's the one I'm calling out.
Yeah, it's beautiful, especially the window mechanism that doesn't have the window in anymore. It's just beautiful. It's just wonderful.
Those internals just look amazing.
Yeah, it's just so good. Jensen, how about you?
So for me, I had to pick John Stimmitz, working on a Tamiya H39. He's currently working on the earth effects on it, and he says it's his practice H39, which I don't really know what that means, because it looks amazing to me. The earth effects are really nice. He's using the ammo splatter effects, and then he's applied pigments, and he says he's had some trouble with pigment fixer where it's gone a bit shiny, but I'm not gonna lie, in the areas that's happened, it looks like it's happened on suspension springs. To me, that looks like where oil and dry dirt mix, so it actually looks right, if that makes sense. So honestly, just looking at the images, I kind of keep that as it is, but that's just me. But I'm really liking the earth effects he's got on there. They're like subtle and obvious, which makes no sense, I know. But they're not like, it doesn't look deliberate. It looks like naturally accumulated dirt over time. It doesn't scream at your face like, hey, look at me, I'm dirty. It looks like a natural over time accumulation of different tones of earth, both dry and wet effects. By effects, I mean mediums like the enamels and then pigments. I think he's just got really, really nice effects on there. I also really like the soft edge green and brown French camouflage he's got on there as well. So I just think overall, that's a really nice build, and I'm really liking how it's coming along. It just, if that's the practice one, I can't wait to see what the not practice one looks like.
No doubt. That's a good call. Looks really good. Like you said, the paintwork is good. While we're talking about Tamiya H39, can I just take a second and give Sam Dwyer in his latest video on the H39 a shout out? I was watching the video, and in Sam's usual chill way, he has this issue while he's painting it and messes it up, and he's just like, oh yeah, no big deal. And I just kind of, messed up the turret marking. So yeah, we'll just deal with it. And he actually shows you what he did and kind of takes another crack at it. And I think it ended up turning out even better than what he had the first time around. So great job on that, Sam, and really enjoying his YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely like how he like you said, how he fixed the number issue, and like you said, typical Sam. Oh well, here we go, we got to fix this now. So Mr. Dwyer. I'm going to go with Tim Nelson's PL8 Whitebird in 1/72 scale. It's a little diorama he built. It's a little biplane flying over water, which he all made the water by himself, or scratch built. So it's a beautiful little thing. It's 1/72 scale, small, but it's just one of those little dioramas or vignettes, whatever you want to call it, just that catches your eye. It looks really, really cool. The aircraft's all white with some red lettering on it. It's just a great little build, Tim, and keep it up. I really enjoy what you do. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Scott to talk about the Chevy truck build.
Thanks, Grant. Well, we want to again shout out Angel and Micro World Games, our newest Posse partner. And if you need AK Interactive products, plastic model kits, display tools, value gear resin, and many other hobby essentials, look no further than Micro World Games. And remember, you can head on over to Micro World Games for a special price on these Chevy kits. Website is mwg-hobbies.com. And if you use our special coupon code, which is PPP20 Angel, you're going to get a 20% discount off of these AK Chevy trucks. It makes the price incredible. Just a note though, Angel let us know one of the 2 kits is already sold out and he only has a few more remaining of the second kit. So if you want one of these trucks and you want to get a good deal, jump on this immediately while he's still got stock on it. So again, want to thank AK Interactive and Microworld Games for sponsoring this group build. As most of you know, we launched this for AK's brand new M1008 Chevrolet military truck kits. We've got kits being built by Doc Anderson, TJ Haller, John Bonani, Mark Bradley, Rick Lawler, Jensen Taylor, Grant Mayberry, Aaron Cook, Jackson Stanton, Zach Grizzle, and Dustin Diaz, as we just were talking about. And a whole bunch of other Posse members have jumped in and bought kits and are building along with us. If you go to our group site for Plastic Posse, you can see the progress that is being made on this. I think in the next week or two, we should have a whole bunch of these in paint. A lot of people have them all put together and either in primer or ready for primer. It looks like they're coming along really, really well. Well, let's just go over to you guys that are working on these. I'll start with Grant. And why don't you just give us kind of a quick idea or a quick update, where you're at on it and where you think you're going to be in the next week or so.
Currently, I've got it all together. It's still in the painting section, so I got to prime it next. So I have the shelter that I was going to build for mine or put on mine. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not yet. I wanted to do the Alaskan National Guard one with the white and the green and the black. But we'll see. I've got some other ideas now. I've got to really focus on that. But I've actually got the kit together real well. It's a beautiful little kit. So everything went together as a dream. There's some great ideas out there on the page that people are passing around. So, I mean, I'll have it in primer easily this week, maybe this weekend.
Nice. JB, how about your truck?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I'm at primer right now. I hope to sling some paint before heading up to the mountains. It was a fun build. It was pretty easy, to be honest. You could slam this in a day. In terms of accessories, Jackson and Grizz have been so kind to develop some stuff. So I removed the handles, printed those. Those are Jackson's. And then also the interior hand crank for the window, I scraped that off. And I believe Grizz built that one. So just doing those little tricks to add a little bit more detail. There's a lot of civilian stuff on Cults as well, so I printed out a ladder. I have a pallet, some milk crates, and just I don't know what the bed interior configuration is, but the vehicle I'm based off of for inspiration has a pallet in the back. I think it actually has like a garage door opener in the back and just a bunch of random crap. So I will be doing that as a 3-tone NATO scheme vehicle, very worn. I've scuffed up the bed in a way that I just took an X-Acto blade and hogged out chunks of kind of the top area of the bed. Like people are just throwing stuff in and it's digging it up. And after you sand it, they actually look pretty good because it's pretty thick plastic. And I'll probably do some dings on the bed interior, but not too much. And I will say, like, if you look at pictures, these things must have been built out of extremely thick aluminum because there's not a lot of dents on them. Even the ones that are beat and in the field, like ex-military ones, they could look roached on the outside and really weathered, but the body itself is actually really well. It's still crisp. Like there's on the side of the vehicle, there's kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, but there's like an indentation and one of the design features on the side. It shows this like parallel line that goes down the side of the body. And you'd think over time that would get dinged or scuffed. Like it's still a crisp, sharp line about, I don't know, a third the way down from the bed. And so I've dinged mine up appropriately, but not too much because I've seen some where the interior is just completely blown out and then the outside looks again stiff as a rod. So I'm looking forward to getting some paint on this. Jackson's got me a little vanity plate for it. And yeah, overall, a lot of fun. Something else I'll comment. If you want to put seatbelts in it, I went on to Cults. I think I just searched seatbelt buckle, and somebody on there created a buckle set for an RC car. And granted, is it the same as a GM? No. Is it perfect? No. But you can print it out, scale it to 50%, and then glue them on the seat. And then I just added strips of Tamiya tape for a belt, and it looks pretty good. And then I used Tamiya tape for some looking like it's falling apart and almost like patching the seat up, but overall, it's a super nice kit. No issues, to be honest. And I hogged out the windows. Shout out to Grizz because he did it. And I was like, man, that kind of looks good. And then I did one, and what you do is you just drill holes around the interior, and then you pop out the plate, and then I have a little Dremel tool, and I carefully hogged out down closer, and then I finally did like an X-Acto blade file combo to remove the window entirely. I did it on the driver's side. I was like, oh, cool, I'll keep the passenger side. And then when I was sanding, I like nicked the window pane. I'm like, well, guess I got to hog out both of them. And I'm actually kind of happy that I've hogged out both, because now you have a nice clean sight inside the vehicle. I'll keep the back window pane in the front, obviously, but I plan on having like crushed beer cans in it that I've 3D printed. I'll probably put the stereotypical Playboy AFV modeler, military modelcraft international issues sitting on the seat. And then, I'll probably ask Ian for advice on what type of firearm would be relevant for a truck in southeast Ohio. So I'll probably have some sort of 45 Colt on there, or some Remington rifle that screams Americana, and somebody that would be driving that vehicle. So Ian, I'll come to you for those specifications, knowing that you're the expert.
Yeah, you got to get Jackson to make you a gun rack for the back window.
That's true. He needs to do that. That's actually a good put. He could do that easily and get a little bolt action rifle or a Remington or Mossberg pump.
I was going to say, yeah, shotgun in the back window would be kind of cool.
I can just picture Ian right now getting very excited for this part of the episode, starting to sweat and hyperventilate.
Absolutely, as he thinks about trucks out in the wild. I remember. I went to high school in the 1980s, so it's been a while. But there were guys that drove their farm trucks to school, and they had gun racks in the windows and everything. So yeah, I think that's going to be really cool. And opening those windows, it's like we talked about, the posable front steering really brings a model of a vehicle to life. And I think opening those windows up really brings some life to that model. And I think will help the display quite a bit than just having one with all the glass intact. Jensen, what about yours? How's yours coming along?
So it was on hold because of compressor issues. Terrible excuse now. But my full intent is a bit like what you said. You're absolutely making yourself do something every day. Like, whatever it is, just do something. So Monday to Friday is going to be all just this truck work. Because whilst I've got the scene in my head as well, what I want to do with it and the environment I want it in, go with it, because it's there. Mine's going to be set. I know I said I was going to keep this top secret. I'm not anymore. Originally, I was going to set it in the outbacks of Australia. I'm not doing that now. Instead, I'm doing the Mojave. It's going to be dusty. It's a nasty truck. Granted, I was going to do the thing where, patched up seat, but I was just like, I don't want to, because a lot of people are doing that, and I don't want to be also doing it. But even though it's very accurate, the seats got ripped up and just a bit of gaffer tape to patch it up. But so it's going to be very, very dusty. It's going to have a replaced door that has the NATO camo on it, but very bleached and faded. The truck's very much going to be a patch-up job. The scene is going to be a little bit sinister. It's just going to be a bit of a, there's a dusty pickup truck with a guy with a gun, and oh no, there's a freshly dug grave near the truck that's been filled in. It's more of I don't know why I'm doing it. It's more of a nod to the intro of Fallout New Vegas, if anyone's played that. And when I see that truck, for some reason, dry desert, very dusty, very haggard vehicle comes to mind, and I just want to kind of put them together. And plus, I need to put an RT diorama order in, and they do cactuses and desert life. And I was just like, oh, convenient. That would be helpful. So I just need to find a miniature that would be I know there will be one that would be suitable for that sort of scene.
Bit of cactus, some Marlboro Reds in the front seat, maybe a Costco pizza box.
Yeah, exactly. Costco pizza. It's a scene I've got in mind. I want to do it. I'm not going to do. It's not going to be too sinister because I can't stand. Personally, me, I don't like model scenes that are overly gory. Not my cup of tea. I think modeling can be much more tasteful. So it's just going to be more of a hint to the scene. But really, how I want to do it, I want the back of the scene to be quite inclined, where the truck's parked at the edge of a lookout, looking over the desert. That's kind of what I want to do anyway. But yeah, it's like JB said, very easily could be a weekend build. This truck is such a good kit, goes together really quickly. So really, it's just getting it painted and weathered. I know once it's primed and painted, the rest is a pretty smooth journey. It's just making sure my dust effects are up to scratch, because I know I'd say dust effects are one of the easiest effects to make not look good. if that makes any sense at all.
So here's a suggestion for the truck in the condition that you're noting. Make one of the tires different tread, like 3D print another tire and another tread. So you got 3 of one kind and then 1 of another or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it doesn't look factory fresh.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm gonna bulge the tires up a bit because, you know, they are crisply molded tire treads. So I'm gonna bold them a little, wear them down. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit beaten up. One of the doors are open. I'm gonna obviously try and put a good bit of effort into that front interior, because with the door open, there's plenty to see. It's like, I get why JB opened both windows, because it's like there's a lot to ogle at. Yeah, and I like it if you put that effort into like the cab or the driving compartment or whatever. Just draw people in, tell a bit more story. Just, you know, rather than just, here is a cab of a vehicle that I put no effort into.
Maybe some fuzzy dice, right?
Oh yeah, that's a given. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Does the vehicle come with a rear view mirror?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't have sunshades either, but you could scratch those pretty easily. But
Yeah.
I'm sure you could find a rear view mirror on Cults. I've thought about printing it out, but it's also hard because you got to glue it to the windshield, and you get like one try.
Yeah.
I mean, and I probably would do it with white glue regardless, but even then, like, it's tough. So,
A little dab of white glue before you install the glass.
Yeah. And then also the sunshades, to be honest, the only reason you'll see them is if you sit down and like look up under the vehicle, because otherwise you can't really see them from above. Even if you put them in, I doubt anyone's ever gonna like bend down and look up into it and see them. So you could leave those off unless you want one deployed.
I mean, sunshade, I'd like to think that's a pretty easy scratch build job with a bit of plastic harden.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably have the driver's one down. You know, the Mojave Desert. It gets a little bit sunny.
Yeah.
I've never been.
Or even a pair of sunglasses on the dashboard.
There's a lot of meth out there.
Yeah. Listeners out there, we'd love to see, if you're building along with us, we'd love to see your progress. Make sure you post in the group and you use the hashtag so we can all check that out. And like I said, I expect in the next week or two, a lot of these vehicles to start getting paint on them. So this group build is really, really coming together. All right, now back to Jensen, the boss of this episode, and he's going to lead us in our first discussion point.
Hello, everybody. So, something that came up in chat the other day, a little Facebook chat, and something that was very briefly discussed between myself and JB, and I thought this actually might be a quite a little good discussion for the podcast. So it's how limiting yourself to specific techniques or methods can affect the finish of your model. What I mean by that is a lot of people like to use exclusively airbrushing for everything, or they will brush paint everything, like they don't do airbrushing. Not that there's nothing wrong with that. You model how you model. But it came to mind, I was like, say a tank or any model at all that's like exclusively painted, post-shaded, weathered, and all these effects are done with just paint and an airbrush, how you will kind of always get the same finish. And when I look at photos from shows, or people just post them online of all these techniques and methods they do, they'll say like, it was primed, I painted it with an airbrush, it was post-shaded with an airbrush, and then I went in with enamels, then I went in with oils, then I went in with acrylics. Like, there's all these different methods, all these different techniques and effects with different mediums, and how that, it becomes layered effects, and you get all these different finishes. Like, say if there's oil spills, that will be shiny, and it will look like oil, or smoke effects, it will look like dry, sooty, powdery dust effects, or rust, it will look crusty. And how maybe sometimes those who like to limit, like, oh no, I do exclusively airbrush, you'll never find me with a paintbrush in my hand. Does that limit them or restrict them from maybe getting more in-depth finishes? I just want to know your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, Jensen, it's that's a good point. And I think what I would say is, like you said, there's no wrong way to approach anything. It's just kind of what you like. But I think the danger is exactly what you said. In real life, let's go back to the AK trucks we're talking about. That would have fuel spills from when you overfill the fuel tank. And as the vehicle gets older, grease is going to start leaking from the hubs. on the axles, and it's probably going to start leaking oil, and that has a different look than dust does and that rust does. And so, if we're trying to replicate a vehicle and you're only using one technique that has kind of one look, then it might end up tending to be a very one-dimensional approach. And somebody, I think, who illustrates this really, really well as far as not doing this and using multiple techniques and using all of the weathering effects in your arsenal. So not just applying color, but using sheen and using texture and using depth is Spud. He's so good at it, because when he puts mud on the running gear of an armored vehicle, you don't just get a color, you're getting a texture. You're getting grass mixed into it, and you're getting bits of earth and different types of mediums. And when he's painting the panel on the side of, say, a toolbox, you're getting different sheens and you're getting different shades of color. So everything is very varied, and it makes it so that each individual panel, each individual road wheel, each individual track length tends to be very, very realistic, because he's bringing all these techniques to bear. I think he's a really, really good example of why you would want to do it. Now, if you want to use one technique, I mean, because we're talking about, an airplane isn't a car, and a car isn't necessarily a tank, and all that. So this isn't a criticism. It's just, you see examples. One of the things I've mentioned I think all of you guys, when we've been at shows together, is especially with aircraft, you tend to see, and this was more in the 2000s, it's kind of fading away now, but you tend to see kind of what I call one-dimensional weathering, where you build the model and you paint it all the colors it's supposed to be and you decal it, and then you do a pin wash, and then you stop. And what happens is that pin wash will darken everything, and it takes the whole model darker, but then you haven't offset that and come back with dust effects or any that kind of bring the mean overall presentation of the model back towards, there's a little bit of light here, there's a little bit of dark there, there's a little bit of gloss here, there's a little bit of flat sheen here, but you're just varying it. And I really think that can, to your point, really bring extra levels of authenticity to a finish. So anyway, that's what I guess I just agree with you 100%.
Yeah, another modeler who's amazing at that is his Facebook page is Earl of Work, or Oliver. Forgive me if I say this wrong. Oliver Peisel, incredible aircraft modeler. He does a lot of. You can see all the layers and techniques, all the different finishes, because he uses everything, like you say, everything in the arsenal to create these finishes that create so much depth and realism in his work. Yeah, just wanted to give a little mention, because he's someone, when I think of aircraft, my mind just goes to his work. It's outstanding, as well as Daniel Zamobida.
Yeah, I mean, it's just echoing what's been said. I think, again, I got a caveat, there's no wrong way to model, but when you think about achieving different effects, sheens, the variety is the spice of life, and going in between, back and forth, is a way to accomplish that. Sticking to one method, and it's no different than if you look at models that were built, even today it shows, but predominantly in the 90s and 80s, and in the 2000s, the wash, dry brush, done, that just, it leaves a rather flat model. And again, some of those models are well executed and they're good to look at. But I think when you want to achieve certain techniques, limiting yourself, or I should say, if you want to achieve certain effects, limiting yourself to only a handful of techniques is just truly limiting the work in the end. As we know, Night Shift is a great example of this. Look at the variety of techniques he's using on his models. Airbrushing plays a critical part. Enamel washes play a critical part. Oils play a critical part. Speckling it plays a critical part. So you not only have techniques, but also materials, and materials being washes or enamels or whatever, those chemical compositions. Like, you have those, you have your application, and it really, that's what makes a model, in my mind, uber convincing, or uber interesting, I should say. It doesn't even have to be convincing. And maybe convincing in my mind is achieving an artistic effect, not creating realism, because let's face it, the best models don't always look real. Mike Rinaldi, I think, is a great example of creating realism through a myriad of techniques, where Zamarbidi is much more artistic interpretation. And damn, I love them. Man, those look so good. And the same can be said with Night Shift, where some of the colors punch, and it's just a different way of modeling, and there's no wrong way, as we all know. But I think keeping your portfolio refreshed with different methods, different materials can really add to interesting finishes. And if that's what you want to achieve, fantastic. If not, totally cool. But some of the most interesting models out there are the ones that use the cornucopia of techniques, which, by the way, random, cornucopia was never in the Fruit of the Loom logo. It's random, I know, but it's like on the internet now. It's something that's been going viral.
Isn't it the Mandela effect? Where it's
Yes,
just like
exactly.
everyone thinks it is, but it isn't. Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody thinks it is, but it isn't. So there's no cornucopia in Fruit of the Loom's logo, but please feel free to have a cornucopia of techniques to apply to a model.
Well, I can't add much more to that. You guys are all right. I think there's people out there that, in the figure world, you have people like Sergio Calvo that do a mixture of both airbrush, brush paint, and then come back in and highlight or downgrade with another airbrush shot. And it gives it that 3 or 4 dimensional, that look that just punches it off the page. And you're right. If you want to do it one way, that's up to you. It's all what you want to do. But I think Jensen and Scott and JB, you're all right. I mean, I think to be a better model, to have something a little bit more stand outish. I mean, we all remember the Titan, or was it titanium white dry brushing days where that's all you did. That was a pretty flat model. But nowadays you have too many opportunities, too many products, too much stuff out there not to combine and add and experiment with.
Yeah.
And do that. I mean, put your base colors on with an airbrush, try it, then do some highlighting or some edge highlighting with a paintbrush, and then do some more fading or some more, filters. Throw a filter in your airbrush and see what happens. Just do it, and you'll have fun.
Grant, you bring up a really good point. So I think there's a couple caveats to what we're talking about. I think, first of all, scale matters. So you look at Alex Clark and what he does, or James Can with 1/72nd scale armor, or Andrea Rodriguez. They're working with a very, very small subject. Or you look at Spud on the other end with like a 1/16 scale armor piece, or a 1/32nd scale aircraft model versus a 1/72nd scale. So I think that really matters. I think that using a paintbrush or an airbrush maybe for weathering effects in 1/72nd scale we're not having the same conversation if we're doing that in 1/35th scale, 1/32nd scale, 1/16th scale, right? And so that's a caveat, I think. The other caveat is there's people like Sergio is a great example, and a lot of the great figure painters who can simulate. Sergio simulates hair on fur, and he simulates texture, and he simulates lighting, all with a paintbrush. And so, I don't want to take anything away from somebody who's really truly a master at that. And natural metal, non-metallic metal, is another great example where people that are really truly good at that technique, they're simulating something with a paintbrush that maybe those of us more regular human are, actually using metallic paint for. And some of those people are really, really fantastic at that. So again, there is no wrong way. And some of these people are truly really, really good at it. But yeah, I think scale matters. Mm-hmm. And, skill obviously is different. And then, like John said, sometimes with Daniel Zamarbide, some of his pieces, some of the time using a set, I don't want to say a prescribed, but a set number of techniques that you use to get, that might be the effect you want. The Lucasfilm ILM models for Star Wars all had kind of a look. And, I think that was part of a cohesive approach to filmmaking that was relevant and was good and everything. So I think, again, there's a few sort of exceptions that we're talking about, but I think just in general, bringing a little bit of sheen, bringing a little bit of dimension, bringing a little bit of texture into your weathering, I think is something, back to the original point that I think Jensen was making, that might really free yourself and you might really be able to bring a different dimension to your model by taking some of these chances that maybe you wouldn't have been able to bring if you don't employ those.
I agree.
So,
I mean, I agree, but there's also, you have to think about too, is that in the world of, let's take Warhammer figures, 28 to 35 millimeter figures. I mean, those people are using airbrushes on them and they're going back in and painting. They are doing, so scale is an issue. I do believe that. I really do, because there's no way you're going to be able to do a lot of stuff in 1/72 scale or 1/44 scale or whatever. But I think I think the use, a lot of this came from that genre of painting. Building and painting is the Warhammer stuff and the figure painting and stuff like that. So, it really is an interesting subject because there's the opportunity to use both and achieve a greater look with both or all. And that, but again, like we always said, it's up to the individual. It's up to that person what they want to do. Are they looking just to get something on the table to play a game, or are they looking to something to put on, plinth and, have it a show? So, again, it's just what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, all very good points from everyone. Like, can't really add too much more than what's been said. They said there's, I don't say a time and a place. There's places for every type of modeling and how you choose to do it. There's no wrong way. Without sounding cliche, you do you. Do what makes you happy. There's no wrong way to model. All right, thanks, guys. Love that insight into different techniques and finishing and basically however you decide to kind of finish and do your models is there's no wrong way of doing it. So, going to head over to JB now for some upcoming shows we have through 2025.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So the first off we're going to say is July 19th. So it's coming up pretty quick. It'll be the weekend after this drops. So in North Charleston, South Carolina is the Charleston Scale Model Show, aka the Low Country Nationals, located at Trident Technical College in Charleston. Find all the details over at charlestonmodelers.com. It's a pretty straightforward website. Next up, Saturday, September 27th is the 28th annual Reno High Rollers Show, located in the National Automobile Museum in Reno, Nevada. Grant and Scott were there last year, and this is a great show. You can find all the details at renohighrollers.com. That's Cody Gazinski's club, and one day I will make it there, because on that same weekend in Little Rock, Arkansas is RockCon. It is a 2-day event put on by the IPMS chapter down there. It's a wonderful show. I went last year with Steve Baker, totally intend on doing it again. Had the opportunity to take Jim Rice's class. So that's a great show put on by Ron Lecker and Ken Childress and all the folks down there in the Little Rock area. It's a fantastic show. It'll be a 2-day show again. They'll have seminars, classes, and just an overall fun time. So if you're in that area, please stop by and check it out. Next up is the Southern Maryland Scale Modelers PAXCon, aka Geek Fest. That's October the 4th in Hollywood, Maryland. The geeks talk about it all the time. That's their staple show. Certainly looking forward to it. I know the East Coast Posse riders will be there, and I'm actually looking at flights to go because they're super cheap. So maybe I'll make an appearance. Love to give a shout out to George Ironman. He reached out for the last show we're going to plug, and that is ArmorCon 2025. That's Friday, October 3rd as well. And Saturday the 4th in Southbury, Connecticut. It's the Amp Space show. ArmorCon is a fantastic show. They actually held the Amps Nationals up there about a decade ago. Really great club. And it's also important to note that they allow Gundam and ground-based sci-fi vehicles. So check it out if you are in the New England area. So maybe Doc will go to that one. But with that, that wraps up the shows. If you have any you'd like to plug, please send them over. We're getting into the fall show season, which is scary to say because I haven't built that much this summer. But bottom line is, very excited for all those local events and look forward to seeing show reports from them. And with that, I'll kick it over to Jensen. What time is it?
It's funny you ask that, John. I think it's time I had a little chat with our listeners. Hey, pal, buddy, I notice a lack of merch on you. You're not repping the Posse. I think we need to change that. I think you need to head over to loungetrousers.com and pick yourself up a new hoodie, a new t-shirt, even a new pillow, some of the world's famous lounge trousers, or even a mug to consume your favorite beverage out of. Head over to Lounge Trousers. Change that now. Get yourself some merch and rep the Triple P.
Well, fantastic, Jensen. Well, I certainly look forward to it. I know some of our listeners have gotten Saint Scott shirts at shows, and those are high ticket items. Those aren't on the Posse store, but if you're interested, reach out. Maybe we can work something out. And certainly at SMC, we'll be wearing them through the cherished halls of the former Abbey. But with that, I think that brings us to the end of this episode. We were going to do another discussion topic, but We're running on about 2 hours, and it's been a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of talking points that our listeners, can certainly provide us feedback on, and we would love to hear from them. And with that, Jensen, take us home.
Thanks, JB. Well, everyone, thank you very much for tuning into episode 120 of the Triple P. Once again, I would like to thank our supporters and sponsors, Micro World Games, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive for supporting the podcast, as well as our amazing Patreon supporters. Join us again in 2 weeks for episode 121, where we'll have more discussions about all things scale modeling and the usual banter with, hopefully, the 5 amazing hosts. Until next time, see you there.
Before we sign off, we definitely want to thank those who make this show possible, and that's our Posse on Patreon. Without them, this doesn't happen, and one of the ways that you can support us is through Patreon, becoming a Plastic Posse Outrider. It's easy. All you got to do is just go to patreon.com/Plastic Posse Podcast and set up a recurring donation there. There are multiple tiers. These contributions help offset costs of bringing you the Posse. There are 3 different tiers of support, but down to just $1 a month. There are some great benefits as well, like early access to podcasts, premium access to the host, which is us, and then a chance to appear on the podcast, and also some exclusive Triple P content and social media events at shows. So with that, please consider that. One of the things we also do is if we see you at a show, maybe you'll get a St. Scott shirt. So we've been trying to do that as we see Posse supporters from Patreon at shows. And with that, I'll kick it over to Scott to discuss the deputy marshals.
Thanks, John. Yeah, let's recognize those amazing people that support us at Deputy Marshals. These are loyal contributors. They support us, and we genuinely appreciate each of you. All these contributions go to, like JB said, not only running the show, but things that we do at shows with people, t-shirts and swag and all that good stuff. So again, much appreciated. Well, let's go in no particular order here. Ryan Smith, Alamo Squadron Model Fiesta, Curtis Towers, Winston Gould, The Quiet Corner Modeler, Daryl Miller, Rob Booth, David Clark, Richard Lane, Robbie Knopfs, Wesley Becker, Eric DeGleish, David Wassel, Matt Tupman, Glenn Pellin, Patrick Neff, Zach Pease, Brett Marquette, Greg Williams, Nick Wolf, Brian Clark, Sean Earl, Black Hat Scale Models, Craig Jarbo, Red Beach One Studios, James Mirando, Mike Norris, Stephen Rodwell, Rick Cooper, Eric Cavina, John Hell, Eric Kane, Logan Hansen, Paul Burdett, Tim Gidcombe, Dan Newman, Robert Blocker, Tyler Moore, Derek Post, Craig Flynn, Ken Childress, Drew Gardner, Scott Hall, Frank Perrone, The Voice of Bob, Jeremy Diamond, Terry Wilkinson, Chris Lovewell, Andrew Callis, Ethan Idemill, Steve Baker, Patrick Brown, Jay Kidd, Brandon Gentry, Lee Fogle, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Toadman, Model Doc, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Workala, John Everett, Uncle Buck, Mark Bradley, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modeler, Dan Knopfel, and of course, the one and only JC Osborne.
Let's not forget our posse foreman. This crew is made up of posse outriders who give the deputy marshals a hand, and we also thank them for their support. Tyler, Aussie Modeler, Graham, Keith, Dwayne, AK Armour, Bill, JAK, Casey, Therese, Raphael, Russ, Stephen, Mikkel, Lavar, Gil, Mike, Michael, Steve, Scott, Emery, The Krieger, William, Jeff, Eddie, Ross, Warhoff Models, G. Baker, Tom Stuff, Crazy Loca, Len, Cliff, Damien, Cody, Nukeman Mike, Paul, What's the Deal with Eyebones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Joel, Chris, Jamie, MD Models, Pepper Steve Munsell, JV, Eric, Matthew, and David.
And of course, our $1 and free Posse Outriders like our latest edition, Fly Casual Modeler. Thanks, guys.
Wunderbar. No song. Hello,
no-
my baby. Hello.
Girl. She was a fast machine. She kept her motor clean. She kept the best damn woman that I've ever seen.